There's last-minute negotiations in the USL, possible progress for the World Cup in Foxboro, and stadium plans announced in Florida. That and much more on Wednesday's edition of Morning Kick-Around. Hello and welcome to the show. You found your way to Morning Kick-Around, where we dot the map of the ever-changing American soccer landscape. My name, Robert Kerr, local soccer guy here in the Great Lakes state of Michigan, and to my side, radio soccer guy, Jason Davis. Welcome all. How you feeling, Jason?
I'm good. I'm seeing Patrick is mentioning my shirt. I am wearing Morning Kick-Around on my shirt. This is not the official, you can get it in the store shirt. This is a pre-production one-off that we did for our trip to New Mexico. So this is not exactly what you can buy. What you can buy is better, guys. Be honest. Let's be honest about that, Rob. I saw somebody was repping their MK Ultra shirt, showing it off in the Discord.
Love that.
So gear up, as we've heard here. Gear up. Go to the store. Buy yourself something nice from Morning Kick-Around, because we've got you covered with T-shirts and hoodless sweatshirts, and I think we have a mug now. It's not a handleless mug. That would be weird. But we have mugs.
That's just a cup. That's just a cup there.
That would just be a cup. That's right. That's right. So shout out. Thank you to Patrick for noticing my shirt, which is not official. Man, what a show we got for you today. Oh, just talking about this, Rob. I think we've got too much. And we've got too much to jam into an hour-long show, which is usually our target. Sometimes we go over. So I think we set a $100 target today for raising funds for Morning Kick-Around. If we get there, we got 3 bonus stories, like 3 good bonus stories that don't quite fit into the meat of the show. So if you want some extra stuff today, that's how you get that. But I know we're ready to go. I know we have lots to get to, and probably you have some things to promote as well.
Yes, indeed we do, but it's the pillars of the show. We have stadium talk, dotting the map, USL stories, and World Cup stories. So it's all the things that Morning Kick-Around does right here in one show. If you want to support the show, you can, no charge whatsoever, hit that subscribe button. Numbers are doing well there. You can become an MK Ultra. You get priority comments on screen, bonus content, and much more, including access to the Morning Kick-Around Discord server, which has threads of all the conversations from national topics, European topics, to USL and local topics. So it's great stuff there. And even MK Ultras talking about building and sharing information on building their own club. So great resource and a great little community that we're building there. So part of the target is raising funds, and part of that, you can become an MK Ultra and join the community. If you are cruising, the finger, you give me the finger.
Well, I just want to add to that, because I know not everybody wants to start a soccer club, but if you do have interest in starting a soccer club, or even want to kick the idea around your brain a bit to see if it's something you might want to get involved in, I don't have who did it and where it exists, but I know that it's been shared in the Discord. There's actually a guide to doing this. Somebody wrote a report. Somebody did the homework on a guide on how to start a local soccer club if you are so inclined, and that exists in the Discord. I think those resources are incredible, and I'm glad that they exist, and I'm glad that we've got people involved in Morning Kick-Around that are doing that stuff.
Yeah, and there's all sorts of resourceful people. I've had a guide to starting a supporters group sent to us, and we've had countless promotion relegation manifestos, lots of ideas germinating. Folks that are brand new to the game, as well as those who have been involved with it for decades at a time. If you are considering becoming an MK Ultra or a Gunner, welcome aboard, sir. You are our brand new MK Ultra. Thank you so much for hopping aboard and supporting this program. Can't wait to have you join us in the Discord as well. And there we go. We clang the clanger early in the show. A Wednesday clang. That's good. Feeling fresh about this episode.
I love a Wednesday clang. I look forward to a Wednesday clang all week until we get the Wednesday clang.
No doubt about that. And so, Gunner D, so when you join the Discord server, we ask if you want to do an introduction. There's a thread to introduce yourself and give a little bit of context on who you are, and then dot the map. On Fridays, usually at the end of the show, at the end of the week on Fridays, we add all the new dots for all the new MK Ultras. And I look in the thread now, and there's quite a few to add on Friday's show. So
I'm so excited
Gunner
for
D,
that.
get into the Discord and add your dot to the map on the channel where you can find the store. But there was also a poll question thrown up. I threw it up yesterday or the day before. Which league is set to win the soccer expansion war? And 60% of respondents say USL and Pro Rel are going to win the soccer war. What do you think of that?
Ooh, I think there's some excitement around their plans. I still need to see some more evidence that they have a clear path to achieving their goals. I don't know that I want to see it as a zero-sum game with a winner and a loser, Rob. That makes me a little nervous for American soccer. But I saw some very interesting comments on our video about the issue of USL kind of claiming towns and MLS Next Pro also wanting to expand and what that might mean. And I think we have an example of a potential front opening up in that regard to talk about on today's show. So thanks to Mr. Bob, by the way, gifting 5 more memberships. We love that. That's great. Spread the joy of Morning Kick Around. John is saying, I thought it was Clank the Clanger. It is Clank the Clanger. Someone spelled it with the Clay. Somebody spelled it with a K, which was Bill. Guys, that's the details. That doesn't matter. What matters is it's how you say it, not how it's spelled, right? When we do it, just clanking the clanger. Doesn't matter.
Nobody knows what it means, but it feels good. That's what it feels. All right, before we get into the show, like I said, subscribe, become a member, do all those things on social media. We are at MKickaround on all the platforms. Always love to see those numbers go up. You know, everybody likes to see number go up, especially on social media. And if you have a story, a question, a tip, or business inquiry, morningkickaround@gmail.com. And just to reiterate, we got more than enough stories, and we want to go long and do more stories. So we had a $100?
$100. Yes, I think it's a reasonable target, and I think we can get there, and we can do bonus stuff today. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, and we want to see Bob always in our corner, always supporting us every single show. But help him out, ultras. Help him out a little bit. Don't put it all on Bob. Don't put it all on Bob.
No. Bob's already done so much for us, and all he got was a mug. No, he's an ultra. We love Bob, but go ahead, Rob. Sorry.
All right, I think that's about all the promotions we'll do. So support in any way you can or want to. But let's get into it. Long balls here on Wednesday's edition of Morning Kick Around. Let's go. With 2 days to go, all options on the table, says the USLPA Executive Director Connor Tobin. The USL Championship scheduled to kick off on Friday. Last minute negotiations happening today. What will happen?
Yeah, that's the update. We do know negotiations are happening today, so this could all be averted. They could all back down. We could go from DEFCON 1 to DEFCON 5 just like that over a meeting. I was going to say overnight, but sometime today. But what we know, what those on the outside of this process know, Rob, is what happened on Friday. This is a statement from USL. Remember last week we had the story from Jeff Carlisle at ESPN and then reported by others that the USLPA had authorized a strike, that they had told their negotiating team, if necessary, you are authorized to strike. We are go for strike. You have the authority. You can push the big red button and walk out that door and force a delay to the start of the USL season at the very least. USL issued this statement at 11:30 p.m. on Friday. Rob, in my experience working in journalism, people don't drop statements at 11:30 p.m. on a Friday if they really want people to read them.
That's a Friday news dump. That's a dump.
That's a dump. That's exactly what we call that, a Friday news dump. They want to bury that. This is the statement. I've highlighted one particular part because it's the summation here. Our latest proposal reflects significant increases in pay, benefits, and professional standards while preserving the stability and growth of the USL Championship. While the players have authorized a strike, we remain focused on continuing negotiations and finalizing a CBA that supports the players, strengthens the league's future, and ensures the game remains accessible to fans and communities across the country, right? Look at us. We're the good ones. We want to bring soccer to everyone. They're the bad ones. They want to strike. Well, what we know about the USLPA is that they are not shy about clapping back, Rob, are they?
No, no. I mean, after 557 days or whatever it's been in negotiations, I'm sure the patience wears thin.
So this is how the USLPA responded via Instagram. They mentioned the Friday statement. They screenshot it there with some eyeball emojis. Oh, look at this. It's time for a league statement explainer, not a crest explainer, which we know are part and parcel of American soccer
I like that.
clubs building their thing. And so there's lots of detail. Man, they gave us lots to chew on here. And I think this is an escalation in the fact that we've talked to Connor. Lots of people have talked to Connor. And what Connor says is, here are the general things we want. And here are the problems we see with the way the USL is approaching this. This is almost a line-by-line sort of destruction of the USL position, right? They mentioned the professional standards. Look at this detail. The housing standard establishes merely that players must be guaranteed 100 square feet of livable space and no more than 2 guys to 1 bathroom. I mean, to me, that is, I've lived in those conditions, Rob. I'm sure you have at some point in your life. A lot of people
in
have
the
roommates.
dorms, in the dormitories,
Yeah. Which,
or in like the camp bunks or something.
Again, as long as it's clean, as long as it's heated in the winter and cooled in the summer, whatever, as long as it's clean, as long as it's a decent place to live, I don't think that's the end of the world. But it's crazy to hear it's only 100 square feet of livable space. I think that hopefully means like a bedroom that's 100 square feet, and then there's also a living room. I hope.
Excuse me, I'm no mathematician, but like 10 by 10, that's 100 square
10
feet,
by
right?
10. Yeah, 10 by 10. They mentioned travel. League refused any new flight standards, but will cover global entry application. So that's $140 for 7 years. Hotel, league has agreed to survey players and potentially use feedback if the league chooses to. Keyword, potentially. Like, yeah, we'll do surveys. We might consider the information that comes from those surveys, but yeah, we might not. Meals establishes that teams must provide post-training meals, Lunchables for all. Is there a standard for post-training meals? Like, that's a good question. Medical clubs must add a part-time trainer to the 1 full-time trainer, with required increase to 2 full-time by 2029. Trainers are kind of necessary for players who run around and do physical athletic things, Rob. You kind of need those people.
Yeah, in amongst a group of like 17 to 25 players on these rosters, there's usually more than one person or player with an ouchie. So
Yes,
if
right.
that trainer's occupied, then you're just sitting waiting, hoping that you get seen.
Yeah. You need to be taped up. There's you need to be stretched out. There's all kinds of things that players need. And with one trainer as currently provided, that's not good enough. Facilities establishes that club must have an adequate gym or have to make gym memberships available. Yeah. Again, they're professional athletes, apparently. At the bottom here, the start is on 11. Yes, this stuff we have to write down, or some clubs will not do it. And that's the whole point of this, right? The whole point of this is if you don't put it in writing, if you don't require clubs to do it, they will find ways around it. And that, in fact, this goes on to further explain some of those issues. Mentions overall player care. Currently, the league refuses to move on the 2-month salary severance if a team folds. League One apparently is 3 months. But if you're severely injured, you may be entitled to 2 whole additional months of severance. Right? Again, this is the economic package that they say is referenced there, the better one. Some of this may be a little out of order, but you'll get the point here. Negotiating in good faith, that's what the league statement says. The USLPA says, after 7 months of bargaining, the USL announced D1 Pro Rel without warning or concrete structure. And that derailed negotiations. If you're in a negotiation, Rob, like, you understand the world exists in a certain way. It's laid out in a certain way. Here's our structure. Here's the number of teams. Here's our plan. And then they come back. Oh, yeah, by the way, we just announced this thing. We're going to create a whole new league. We're going to have 3 tiers now. There's going to be Pro Rel, which means players might be moving up and down between levels. Yeah, let's just keep going. No.
Yeah, that would hardly be qualifying as transparent communications there. And I want to say, as we're digging in here, and this is definitely the player side, that a lot of the teams do provide these things, but it's the outliers, the 20 to 30% of teams that aren't requiring this. And we've seen in contracts a lot of these requirements are per CBA requirements. And so if they don't get in the CBA, the players won't be getting them.
I thought this was interesting. 12-month contracts. They've agreed to 12-month contracts. Keep in mind, they also want unilateral midseason buyouts at a discounted salary rate and to cut players off season down by a third. So they want, less time off, but also your contract can be canceled in the middle of the season for a lower rate than you would actually get paid out or get paid for the rest of the season. Give a little, take a lot is the way the USLPA frames that. Minimum compensation. As of today, the league's proposal would affect only 16 current contracts in 2026. Their proposal would have a league-wide year-one cost of $37,000 as it relates to salary and housing. 9 of those contracts are on one team, it says. Of the 16 current contracts that the minimum compensation line would impact, Rob.
It really, the percentages of the teams, when they keep on referencing that 20% or this or that, it seems like there's like 1, 2, maybe 3 problematic teams in the mix, and the association is trying to look out for everyone in their group. And I'm curious if it would ever get to the time where they name the name of these teams where those contracts are those 9 on one team, which is pretty wild. Which team has 9 that have those sub
minimums?
Sub
sub potential minimums. Man, I guess so. I'm sure there are people who have an idea of which club this might be. I'm not at liberty to speculate right now on this show. And I would say that again, this is why this USLPA is trying to negotiate, so that all of their players are protected because they represent all of them, right? There is a PA, and we do collective bargaining in this country for this reason, that sometimes you have to force management to do things because in a bid to cut costs or save money or make more money, they will find ways to screw over labor. Now, again, the tension here, and something I consistently mention because it's worth remembering, is between the players who want more and the owners who say, well, if we give you more, our clubs fold, or I can't do this anymore, right? So it's existential. This is existential stuff. And yet again, you don't have a right to have a soccer team if you can't provide professional standards for the players that you sign. And you don't get to call yourself professional or potentially first division soccer in America if you can't meet some basic standards, Rob. I think that is a reasonable thing to ask. Now, again, is the alternative no professional soccer in certain cities? Yeah, maybe. But we can't allow for soccer to exist if it means exploitation.
Yeah, one of our MK Ultras from day one, Mike Thomas, do you take these standards if it means some teams fold? That's a great question. It's like, because one of this next CBA is going to run into what is projected as the beginning of Pro Rel and a new first division. So they're trying to like set that level now for the future they want future selves to thank current day selves for what they've been negotiating and doing the hard lifting now.
Yeah. Another element here is the health insurance. So we talked about this a lot. Connor brought it up a lot. It's a major sticking point for the players, and people go, well, most teams have health insurance, or that's kind of the league's position, is like, let the teams decide their health insurance situation. It says here, increasing from no required insurance and over 25% of the league being uninsured to forcing clubs to offer the minimum levels of what has always been made available to front office staff members. Again, if you work for the front office, you get the health insurance. If you're a player, you do not get the health insurance in some places. We've asked for a progression of plan quality over 2 years. The league has said no. Currently, some of these plans have a deductible of $10,000. You might as well not have insurance if your deductible is $10,000, Rob.
Yeah, I've had that. I've had that in the past, and it sucks.
Yeah, your checkups are covered to a certain extent, and you got your copay. But if you got a major issue and you have to meet a $10,000 deductible before anything kicks in, I mean, obviously, with the way costs are, you might get there before too long, but you don't want to be paying that out of pocket.
Certainly not.
Right.
That's a toughie.
And a couple more here. Many people don't know what we're currently bargaining for the potential standards for the first few seasons of the new Top Flight. Again, bargaining for potentially USL Premier as well. When it was announced, they provided zero concrete answers about this division, their plans, how players will be treated, and what the vision was for this level of play. While it's been reported that the league has proposed a $60,000 minimum salary in 2028, Jeff Carlisle had that story. We talked about it. What they aren't reporting is that there is no inclusion of housing, and they want 6 sub-minimum contracts per team at $33,000. This is the same level as what the league has proposed for the 4 sub-minimum contracts in the USL Championship in 2028. So they want some exceptions to the minimum, 6 of them, and they're not including housing in the $60,000 minimum. So you will have to pay for your housing out of pocket, which obviously reduces your take-home pay at the end. And again, a lot of these guys, they're not relocating permanently to where they're playing because you can't justify that if you potentially are out of a contract after a season.
Yeah, I mean, most contracts don't go beyond 2 years at this level, and to relocate yourself and your family and like buy a house seems pretty drastic and kind of unrealistic at that rate. And so a lot of these guys are getting housed. And looking in the comments, I know we got a lot of stories, but this is an interesting take from Riverside Grove. He said many of us would have given anything to play soccer professionally. I would have gladly shared a bedroom and bathroom, and much worse for a professional opportunity. What I'll say to that, having been someone who's gotten my dream job on multiple occasions, once you get into that seat, you then want to take that next step or live comfortably. And especially those with families, like 100 square foot place. And if it's just more than you, isn't very realistic. And honestly, chasing your dream and getting to that next level, I mean, maybe if you're the small percentage of like the new guy or the very, very young player would accept that. But once you become established, that's not as
well,
acceptable.
Okay. And that's the thing. Like, you could say, well, if you really care about playing and you want to play, well, then you'll make sacrifices. We all make sacrifices as we chase our dreams, right? Like you talked about your dream job. I get to do soccer on the radio and I get to do this, and this is my job because I worked really hard and I made a bunch of sacrifices and I made no money for a long time and I was scrambling freelance jobs together and all that stuff. But as you said, like, we need the experience in the system, though. Like, there should always be room for the newcomers to come in and be willing to sacrifice and scrape and claw and do everything they can to get to where they want to be. But once you're there, you shouldn't be pushed out the door because you cost too much, because your experience matters. The experience you had scraping and clawing that you bring to the table matters, right? So we can't just have a bunch of 23-year-olds willing to room 6 guys to a house for $30,000 a year and call that professional soccer and call that good professional soccer. And again, what is lost here, what is missing for me in all of this is how much USL actually cares about the quality of their product. Like, how much do they actually care about the quality of the players that they're bringing into this league? How are you going to attract quality players and play good soccer? Is it just about the flash of it? Is it just about the new teams? Is it enough to just have a team on the field? Or does the USL actually care about how good the soccer is when they get ready to launch USL Premier and a first division league? And presumably, if they get their way, enter into continental competition. Then what happens?
Yeah, if they get into that continental competition, they don't have the best player they could possibly get. That could be a tough wake-up call there. And then and then there's a certain group in the fan base that are there because their team is representing their town, but there's a whole nother category that want to be entertained. They want to see a spectacle. They want to see something that they've never seen before. And if the players aren't the highest level that they could be, then you're not likely to see that, or not as much to retain people, because you didn't see that wow moment that you potentially could have if the standard was a little higher.
Yeah, I mean, again, like as I said, there are many points of tension and discussion here, and one of them is what is acceptable in order just to get this off the ground, right? What is acceptable just to have professional soccer in your town? And again, doesn't need to be professional, right? This is also kind of wrapped up in all of this is, what is the point of this for these clubs, right? If we're not going to say that clubs make money, then why are you doing? And this is, again, why USL has leveraged the real estate play in order to push forward on getting new clubs into its leagues so it can populate its 3-division plan. Because what they want is towns to say, oh, this is good for developing our downtown, our blighted area, and we're going to put a soccer stadium there. And it justifies the expense on the local owner who comes in and now has a stadium solution already set for them. I mean, again, like everybody's scratching each other's back on some level, except the players get left out of the significant discussions about what it takes to lift this league, right? And again, without getting too sort of revolutionary in my framing here, labor and management, man, like it keeps coming back to that, Rob.
Yeah, it sure does. And as before we move on to our next story, reminder that 2 days until kickoff for the USL Championship, and last minute negotiation session happening just now, or just right now, maybe this morning.
I'm sure they've started early. I'm sure the coffee is out. I would say there's a very good chance that by the time we post this segment, if we do it individually, or by the time you're done watching this show, even, who knows? And if you watch it back, especially later in the day, there could be a resolution, or there could be at least an update on that. And I will be watching it all day long.
And before we move on, note that we have a $100 goal to unlock a few more stories at the end of the show. And we echo Mr. Bob, one of our biggest supporters. He's saying, I see all these people watching. It can't all be on Mr. Bob. All right, let's move on to our next story of the day here on Morning Kickaround. Our next story is a World Cup story, so I'll remind you, Morning Kickaround's World Cup coverage is brought to you by Oakland County Football Club, celebrating 10 years of summer soccer in Southeast Michigan in 2026. Tickets now available. Visit Oakland County FC online for those, and a big announcement coming Friday. To Foxboro we go. There was an update in the story of the showdown between the Foxboro Council and the funding for security there, nearly an $8 million shortfall. And the Foxboro town officials won't pay for it. And in Boston, World Cup organizers say that they'll pay for it, but it's not quite a done deal.
Yeah, look, I'm seeing that Paulo Rauer has dropped a new story on this at The Guardian, so read up on it over there. ESPN has had this story. The Athletic, which obviously is behind a paywall, has had this story. The resolution, such as it is a commitment from the Boston organizing committee to pay the bill, backed by a promise from the Kraft Group, which owns the New England Patriots, New England Revolution, obviously heavily invested in soccer in the region. Hopefully they'll build a stadium for the Revs there in Everett, Mass very soon. That would be amazing. The problem is the lawyers are saying to the town of Foxboro, give us an invoice and we'll get you paid within 2 days. And the town of Foxboro is like, nah, we don't trust you. We don't trust you.
They haven't been transparent enough to do that yet.
No, you've got to give us the money up front so that we can make sure we have this covered in our budget, which, again, the amount of money that is necessary to pay for the security of Gillette Stadium around the World Cup, which is 39 days. They have to secure the site for 39 days. That is 10% of Foxboro's annual budget. It's a town of 18,000 people, right? When Gillette is filled, it is like 3 times the size of the town in which it sits. And they're like, no, you've got to pay us up front. And the lawyers are apparently not committing to this. And there's also this issue of obviously money being dispersed by FEMA, which is responsible for the budget around World Cup security that was included in the bill that was passed last year by Congress. FEMA is currently shut down because it's part of DHS. Why FEMA's part of DHS, I'm not quite sure, but FEMA's part of DHS. So FEMA's not distributing the money, which they could have done before the shutdown. But I'll remind you that the people in charge of DHS maybe aren't the best people, and they're not really on the ball. They're more concerned about some other things. I watched some hearings yesterday, Rob. This is where I'm at. I'm watching hearings with the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. She also happens to be my wife's boss's 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 boss. So I don't want to be very careful here. So I mean, all of this. Look, somebody walked up. Pablo begins his piece. His lead reads that a citizen of Foxborough, a local resident, walked up to the bench during Tuesday's meeting in Foxborough, Massachusetts, of the select board, which is basically the town council, and he said, "Do you think we're going to have the World Cup here?" Like, that's where we're at. We are a couple months away. They have to give this license like very soon, and I think it's what, a 2-week deadline or something for this vote to happen, and they're not sure. And the board members are like, "We don't want to deny the license, but we will if we have to."
Yeah, a situation. Who could have thought that it'd be a showdown like this? And it says there was a tense showdown at this hearing earlier. Was it yesterday, the day before? And saying that upfront payments such as like this are not customary. But the council there in Foxborough is insisting there is a vote on this coming on March 17th. So we'll see what happens in the next, was that 2 weeks or so? And then there's a June 1st deadline where about delivery of supplies. And there's some back and forth about when does the money come? Does the supplies come? Like, nobody wants to be paying and then left with the bill, because all the parties involved don't seem to be obviously forthcoming with any money. And so, probably the most vulnerable is the small town. And so they're definitely not willing to foot the bill here. I mean, a 2-day turnaround on payment is not bad, but they just don't seem to believe that is 100% solid.
Yeah. So some of the details here. The town has always dealt with the Kraft Group because the Krafts own the Patriots and the Revolution. So whenever they issue a license for a game to happen in their town, they don't own the stadium, but the stadium's in their town, and you're talking about thousands and thousands and thousands of people coming into the town of Foxborough. Absolutely, they should have the right to say you can do this or you can't do this. They've always dealt with the Kraft Group directly, and because of the way that the World Cup is organized, that's not what's going on here. Right? The lawyers for the Boston 2026 committee, who apparently showed up late to last night's meeting, that's not a good look. That's not a good look.
Especially since they're being kind of like, they're on the hot seat for approving all this stuff without Foxborough's go ahead either in the first place. That's how this all happened.
Yeah, so yeah, right. They charged ahead thinking this was a fait accompli, and it turns out no, actually it's not, because you don't have the $8 million that Foxborough needs to handle the security costs. The quotes in here in Pablo's piece, this is basically like, we're going to give you the money. We have a substantial amount of funding set aside for planning purposes. He said, it says he gave assurance, the lawyer from Boston 2026, gave assurances to the board that the Krafts, legitimate billionaires, have offered to fund any shortfalls. The host committee has that it the host committee had rather that would keep it from meeting its obligations. So if the host committee comes up short on money, the Krafts will pay that money. The Krafts will provide a commitment letter pledging those funds in the next day or two. And again, the board's like, no, we don't know you. We haven't dealt. It's very almost like a mob situation. These are not mob people, but I think about a mob movie where it's like, I don't know you. Why would I get into business with you? I know that guy. Why are you here on behalf of that guy? I want to talk to that guy. And again, you said the equipment part of this as well. The town has asked for a bevy of safety equipment needed to secure the stadium and its surroundings. They don't have a bunch of barriers just sitting around. Town of 18,000 people for a giant stadium. The lawyer for Boston 2026 says it will be in place by June 1st, 12 days before Scotland and Haiti open up the World Cup in Foxborough. Nearly every committee of the member bristles at this suggestion. It says it's not acceptable. And then further board members protested. This is building a plan in an extremely scary world, getting scarier by the weekend. By the way, again, backdrop that there is now the question of domestic terrorism lingering in the air because of world events. So man.
So security is not just like a tack-on thing. This might be absolutely 100% needed and necessary stuff to have this, $8 million worth of security. And I kind of like this quote from one of the council members there in Foxborough. It says, "We're 99 days and a simple solution is very simple. Fund what we need funded, and the issue is gone tomorrow."
Apparently the lawyers brought a slideshow to
Maybe that's why they were late.
they brought slides with visual aids laying out the scale of collaboration between the town, host committee, and FIFA. And then there's a slide that reads, the board's discretion is limited by Massachusetts statutes and the town's stadium regulations, basically saying, you guys are not on strong legal footing here, town of Foxboro, which sounds like a threat, right? Doesn't that sound like a threat to the town? Like
you were talking mob conversations. That goes into that category too.
Yeah, and the board clapped back and said, we actually have broad discretion. So I don't know what the hell you're talking about. I mean, we've said that there might be a resolution here. Somebody's promising the money. But I do not blame the town of Foxborough for saying, well, wait a second, the devil is in the details.
Yeah, devil's always in the details, and especially when it comes to millions of dollars and who's going to pay what and who's going to get paid, because once it's over, they've also the city council's also referenced this. Once the event is over, FIFA's gone and probably never to be heard from again. So don't want to be out of pocket when this World Cup hits the dusty trail, if and when the World Cup happens here. We got plenty more stories. I want to give us a little bit of an update. We have a $100 goal to unlock basically the back half. 3 more stories at the end of this. If producer Jenny, if you could total up what we've got so far, I think we've gotten a decent percentage of our $100 goal so far, but adding it up on the fly is a little tricky. So if you want to help out, you can do a super thanks. You can donate in various different ways right here on this platform. Jenny says $49 by her count. So
halfway there, almost. 49% of the way.
49% of the way. All right. Support how you will. We're thankful for all. And then we'll move on to our next story here on Wednesday's show, Soccer Under Construction. Let's go. Soccer Under Construction here on Morning Kick Round. To North Florida we go. Sporting Jacks, who are headed to kickoff in USL Championship in 2026, made an announcement about their potential future forever home there in Jacksonville.
Showing a picture. This is what the team put out in their press release. This is all they gave us. There were not other new renderings. It's obviously, there's a lot going on in this in this picture, Rob. It's a
I like the sign at the bottom that says district. I think that says it all, district.
I zoomed in a little bit. You can see that there are burgers and hot dogs and other things available at District, if that is indeed a real place. Right there below the stadium, it says, you can see it says Sporting Club Jacksonville on the on that wrap there, top of the stadium. I know you're squinting, Rob, but you need your glasses to see it, but it's there. Trust me. Below that, it says muffins. So I'm really excited about the muffin store that is included in this rendering. Now, obviously,
football muffins hand in hand, like muffins.
The point of this is to show the future we want, right? The future soccer fans, I guess soccer fans, and they like an entertainment district in Jacksonville. And this, again, is very much that real estate play element of American soccer. And I'm not trying to talk badly about Sporting Jack's ownership, which includes people like Tim Tebow. He's not the main owner, but he's involved, or he was involved.
He's the one quoted in all this.
Yeah, and Fred Taylor, former running back in the NFL, and a Jacksonville Jaguar himself, I believe, is quoted heavily. I saw a little video of him on local news talking about how excited they are as they announced this last night.
Your man, Big John Elway, too.
John Elway's involved somehow, in some way. 15,000 seats. So that sounds like they're aiming for that standard required by U.S. Soccer for a first division outdoor men's soccer team in terms of stadium capacity. Otherwise, I don't know what to say about this, Rob. I mean, it looks very cool. And if we get a bunch of second, third division, or obviously first division, but under a different umbrella than Major League Soccer building stadiums like this, it's a huge statement about the possibilities for the game in this country.
Yeah, and part of the press release and part of this whole kind of motion from USL to create real estate plays and have districts where there's a stadium in amongst other things. And obviously in that rendering, they're trying to build a whole district of various businesses and make it a 365 venture rather than just something that comes alive during game days. And I'm trying to think, are there examples already of where a district like this has been planned and executed and thrived yet? Because I know like in Detroit here, when they planned Little Caesars Arena, there was supposed to be a whole district thing, and there was a bunch of public money donated to it or gifted to the Red Wings ownership, and hasn't really come to fruition. And a lot of these plans that we dot the map with as we expand, and USL, is putting teams, or at least plans of teams, all over the place. I'm trying to think of if there's already one that has like a proof of concept already.
It's a good question. It's a good question. I mean, I'm trying to think in terms of second division soccer in America right now as it sits. I don't know of any. I know of obviously we've gotten stadiums built. Sacramento's planning their own thing, right? In the rail yards, and they're getting underway and moving forward on that. We've heard about plans in places, but not necessarily coming to fruition. I think that's worth digging into. I put up a map here on the screen for us to kind of visualize where the plan to build is in Jacksonville. I don't know much about the geography of Jacksonville. You got the St. Johns River there, which separates Jacksonville's downtown area from whatever else is out there to the east. And you can see that this is not a downtown location, right? This is clearly kind of out. I believe the University of North Florida is just to the right of where the Sporting Jacks logo is, and that's where Hodges Stadium is, which is where I believe Sporting Jacksonville is going to start their life in the USL Championship. This is Hodges Stadium. They obviously need to upgrade from this because this isn't going to cut it in terms of a quality soccer venue. I mean, look, you play where you need to play. I get it.
Humble beginnings.
With the track and the single stand and there's an enclosure element here that's required under USL and US soccer regulations. So they're going to have to figure that part out. It's a little confusing too, what's going on in Jacksonville, because you see I have a Jacksonville Armada logo right there where Jacksonville itself is. That is very close to where the Jacksonville Jaguars stadium is, right? And there's a whole little stadium district, and there's a plot of land just to the north of where the Jaguars play, where Jacksonville Armada has been planning a stadium for the last 4 years. They just went through an ownership change in late 2025. They plan to play in MLS Next Pro, I believe, starting next year. So Sporting Jacks is playing this year in the USL Championship. Jacksonville Armada, formerly an NASL team that kind of went down the ranks when the NASL collapsed and have been playing amateur for a while, they want to play MLS Next Pro. So this is potentially a front on the soccer wars. But I cannot find any updates on what's going on with their stadium location, Rob, because again, it's been a while since they announced this, and their stadium was going to be much smaller. I believe this is the rendering. So something like a couple thousand seats to start and maybe upgrading to 10,000 if they could get there. So man, I don't know. Like, this is a weird situation in Jacksonville. Sporting Jack seems to have the momentum and the money. And you even speculated that maybe the reason that Jacksonville Armada has kind of stalled here is because they are being overshadowed, or there's something going on where they're being cowed by the new investment across town.
Yeah, on the Armada's website, there isn't any updates in the news section of their website there since the announcement of that ownership change in late 2025. So they've had a couple months and not a lot of at least public facing stuff on their website at the very least. This is an interesting concept on the screen here with the one big end and then a couple of small sided places. That's an interesting look there. And I want to hear from Jacksonville people on that location, because on the announcement of the Sporting Jacks site, I saw very much conflicted, like, oh, it's in the other side of the river, no chance people go there. And then a whole bunch of other people saying, I love this location. So I'd love to hear from any Northern Floridians if you have any takes on this.
It feels to me like one of those situations where the sprawl is taking people farther away from the city center, and there's this idea that, hey, you can build something here and people will go to it, and that area is getting more populated, and there is maybe more money. I don't know, maybe more money there, Rob, because the farther out you get from city center in these sort of suburban areas, you can find money. And I see that there's a golf club not too far away from this site for Sporting Jacks. There is a town center, whatever St. John's Town Center is. So there is this idea of you don't have to be city located if you're not maybe the biggest, if you're not
Or if you're
playing at the
creating your
highest
own
level.
town, it looks like they're trying to create their own town here.
That too. And it reminds me of Miami, right? Miami FC going to Homestead, which is certainly not, like, oh, where are you going to put a Miami team? You're not putting it in Homestead unless you think Homestead is growing to a point that he can support a team whose ambition isn't to put 30,000 or even 25,000 in a building. It's a much lower level of ambition. So I don't know. I mean, yeah, there's some big questions here around the future of sort of the battle in Jacksonville, but Sporting Jacks is making waves with their announcements.
Yeah, you just brought the map down there, but a little bit of a tangent. There's a place there called Tiger Hole just to the west of that proposed place. I'm curious what the heck a Tiger's Hole could be, but moving along, it says, what do you got on screen here?
So I found this as a part of a presentation from one of these companies that sort of says, here's how you leverage sports into your real estate play. I think that's what this is about. This is play number 2 of a series of plays. And in this play, they highlight the Sporting Jacks plan. So you can see down in the bottom right is that picture we already showed you, the one that they included in the press release from their announcement yesterday, with the couple standing on the balcony and the whole entertainment district, and then the Sporting Jack Stadium in the distance. Then you have an overhead shot of what I'm presuming is going to be the Sporting Jack Stadium as part of that district. So to the south, I guess, at least in the picture of the stadium, you have what looks like to be a practice field with a track around it. Maybe that's community, I don't know. And then north of that, I guess, was where the district would be. So it's just a couple of other elements to throw in here. And it even says, in terms, again, of leveraging the stadiums as the centerpiece of a bigger real estate and multi-use development, it says districts that succeed aren't tied to a short event schedule. They generate reliable revenue by layering activity across times of day and days of the week. Morning fitness, midday business lunches, evening dining, weekend fan energy create a steady rhythm that sustains performance beyond the season. Again, this is so directly targeted to the people that are investing in American soccer right now, because it's, hey, if you do this, here's how you make it successful. You have all of these little elements where soccer is one of them, and that's maybe your weekend event, or maybe you're doing concerts there, but also remember, you need to have all this other stuff that get people out during the week.
Yeah, and then whoever's this group that's running it, they become an incredible landlord if they are the leasing agent for dozens of businesses. That'd be interesting how that all plays out. And can you manage all that? And are all those going to be successful? And can you keep those going? And I mean, and I saw something referenced about traffic, and this is an upscale area. Will this development actually bring people in on an everyday occasion? And then skipping back here, we got one of our MK Ultras who's definitely tuned in to the lower leagues. Chris, he's saying NPSL has not announced the conference yet with Jacksonville Armada. It isn't an impossibility that the NPSL South region clash so spectacular that Armada can't even play an NPSL this season due to lack of teams, which is an interesting turn of events for a former pro team who's looking to go pro again in MLS Next Pro.
Yeah, and again, things have gone a little quiet since the announcement of the ownership change, and so we don't know. And to even go back further, they plan to build the stadium there adjacent to downtown Jacksonville on that side of the St. Johns River. Said that the finish date would be March 1st, 2026. And that happened 3 days ago. And I cannot find a news story about anything involved with that stadium. And if you go to Google Earth or Google Maps and you put in the actual location, if you put in the address of the site for the planned Jacksonville Armada Stadium, Rob, what you see is when you go to Street View, what you see is a parcel of land with the fences around it of a construction site with the Jacksonville Armada logo on that signage. But and that picture's from a year ago per
Mm.
Google Maps. So there's not an updated picture unless we get eyes on the actual site, unless somebody wants to go and check it out for us. Albert Street in Jacksonville. I just don't know what's going on there. I just think it's really tough to figure out. And that may mean that Jacksonville Armada is effectively, if not a dead soccer team, then a stuck in the amateur level soccer team. And that's interesting again because of the sale, which was supposed to be about finding the person who was going to level this team up and get them back to professional soccer.
We shall see how it plays out. It's another one of those situations where they could go from 0 stadiums to multiple stadiums. And we're seeing that possibility pop up in a couple different areas. And yesterday I put on the posts section of the Morning Kicker on YouTube channel, who's going to win this expansion soccer war. And we are sitting at 60% thinking that USL and promotion relegation is going to win this expansion battle. We're going to see one of those fronts. We talked about Toledo earlier in the week as a possibility. We're talking about this possible head-to-head competition here in Jacksonville, Florida. 60% think USL will be the winners here. Curious to see how this will all play out, but more independent teams coming to MLS Next Pro. We talked about it earlier in the week. Ali Curtis, they're shooting for like 15 to 20 independent teams. So definitely some cities and markets in the crosshairs for both of these leagues.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think there is going to be this. So USL is being proactive, right? USL is going out into towns. They're sending Justin Papadakis places, and he's showing up at city council meetings, and he's saying, "We'll pay for the study to determine whether your town is a good place for professional soccer and a professional soccer stadium, or we'll pay for the study that will tell you whether you should invest public funds in rehabilitating a stadium that we then will use for professional soccer. We'll find you an owner, or we'll scare up investment for your potential soccer team in town, and you'll have something to rally around. You'll have an identifying marker for your town." Again, I think of the way minor league baseball used to fill that role, and maybe still is in a lot of places, but there are towns that don't have minor league baseball teams, and there's probably a saturation point for minor league baseball. You're not starting a bunch of new teams when there are only so many major league teams that need minor league outfits, whereas professional soccer is untethered from that relationship. Now, it's a little scarier, I would imagine, because you got to do your own scouting and you got to go find your own players, and there's a little bit more of a lift on the playing side. But it means you have a truly independent entity in your town that people can say, "Oh, I'm from Duburg or whatever, in my Duburg whatever soccer team." I don't know where that came from. I was going to say Dubuque. Does Dubuque have a soccer team? Anyway,
Possibly.
they might. So people rally around this, and that's the selling point. Whereas MLS Next Pro, I think, is very much on the other side of the inception, which is you find people who want to invest in soccer, and then you you take them to the town and you say, okay, well, we want to do an MLS Next Pro team. Or that the people who are interested in launching a soccer team who aren't being led to it by USL, who aren't being led to it by the league, are looking at this scenario and going, what's the better price point for us? What is the lower level of investment needed to get off the ground? And we talked about Grand Rapids, right? And we know Baltimore right now has a speculative plan for an MLS Next Pro team attached to DC United. I don't know how independent they will be, but that is a market then will have a pro team of some kind. And again, is this land claimed and then it's locked out? Or is this, no, we're also going to put a team in a town, depending on what the size of that town is and what we think it can support. And I think that's fascinating. And to the point about this St. John's Town Center area, University of North Florida, where they are putting a stadium or planning to put a stadium for Sporting Jacksonville, that is going to be a Jacksonville team. And that's Jacksonville. And somebody was talking about the connection between Jacksonville, the city, and Duval County, and how it's all kind of blurry as to what is what. But there are a lot of places. Like, remember we brought up Firestone, Colorado? Rob, do you
Yep.
remember Firestone? People,
Clear the
why
cobwebs. That was a while ago. I haven't heard much about that lately.
yeah,
No.
and maybe Firestone, Colorado was not going to get a professional team, but they entered into one of those exclusive negotiation contracts with USL over the idea of bringing a team to Firestone. Now, Firestone is not a place that you recognized. It's not a town I was very familiar with, but if you look on a map, Firestone is a little ways north of Denver, kind of between Denver and Fort Collins, which was where Colorado State University is. And it's this area of the sprawl, right? Of the suburban sprawl that is starting to connect these towns together that then feels like a place that can maybe support a team. It's not Denver, but it's Denver adjacent, right? And I think USL is seeing that there are some places that don't jump off the page as sort of big markets in people's minds, but might be forming into these anchor points. Whereas, the team might be in Firestone, but it's not going to be a Firestone team. It's going to be sort of this regional team. It's going to be a Northern Colorado team, the way that the Hailstorm were for a bit.
Yeah, interesting to see what happens to the Firestorm, Hailstorm, and if that connects to Firestone.
You want to talk
Colorado.
about how Mike is pointing out that we want to see the soccer war hard up from Monday's show. So shout out to Mike.
Yeah, so I have pronunciation problems, you have spelling problems, and it all turns out good because we do want to see soccer heart up in the United States. And with Mike's generous contribution, that brings us 59% of our way to our total. So we only have a few minutes left of the regular show, and we have multiple stories we'd love to talk about here on Wednesday.
I know.
So if we can find a way to $41 in the next few minutes, and we'll continue the show and do a bumper crop, as there's a lot more stories to talk about. But offhand, talking about stadiums, since we're still in the soccer under construction segment, Greenville, we featured their interesting AI Renaissance Stadium mock-ups on the show before. And pictures released recently of some executive types in hard hats standing in the midst of a construction site. So it looks like that Renaissance themed soccer stadium in Greenville, Carolina is coming along. So very cool with that. I'm still there was commenters noting that, like, why hasn't there been an updated picture or renderings or anything of what it's supposed to look like, because as we reviewed on the show, our renderings of the year that was on our top 5 renderings of 2025.
Yeah.
And they had 2 pictures, one from the outside and one with a ghostly goalie involved. But good to see that construction project's coming along.
Actually, I do see at least one new picture. I don't think there's more than one. So let me see if I can pull this into the show. Rob, you encourage people to help us get to our $100 target while I do some work here and pull up an image so we can share a little bit more about the Greenville Triumph Renaissance themed stadium as you described it.
Hey, looks like we have gotten a donation via Ko-Fi. So Ko-Fi is a great place to go. If you don't want to donate via YouTube takes a significant cut of your generosity. So you can go to kofi.com/morningkickaround to donate. We've received some donations there, and we are now up to $84 during this live show. So 84% of our way to our $100 goal. So if anyone could kick in $16 dues or maybe donate some gift memberships, that would be great, because we'd love to continue this live show, because there's a number of other morning kick around topics to get to today.
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm still working. Go ahead. Keep going. You're doing great, Rob. You're doing great. Can you sing for the people? Maybe you got a poem or something. What else can we do?
I've been given a challenge, Mike. If Rob does the Ohio State, I'll send another $5 donation. Now you're trying to get me to undermine my loyalties here. And there's definitely Ohio people, some dear friends of mine, Ohio people, that would get a dark smile out of me doing that. But for the good of the show,
A dark smile.
A dark smile.
Good.
Not saying Luke Zagorski's
Good.
name out loud, but how does that go? Ohio, or something to that degree.
You
So
said it.
hopefully
You
that
said that. No enthusiasm. Zero enthusiasm from Rob with that one.
Ohio,
Aren't you supposed to? Yeah, hype up.
hype up Ohio. Yeah, and if you're watching
Oh,
this, and if you're associated with a team, we have a new initiative going as the summer season approaches. Hype Your Match is an initiative we're doing it. So call this a soft launch. So if your team has a specific rivalry match or a theme night or something like that, we'd love to hype that up. So email us at morningkickaround@gmail.com and we'll hype your match.
just a lot of people running around in hoodless sweatshirts with dark smiles saying, hype your match. That's like a zombie army of people in hoodless sweatshirts giving us dark smiles. All right, here's what I was talking about, Rob. This is the latest rendering of GE Vernova Park, which is there supposed to be in Malden, South Carolina, just outside of Greenville. Make sure you say it properly. It's not Greenville. It's Greenville, South Carolina.
Hopefully this is a good building. It doesn't turn into the nickname Greenville if it's a bad stadium. But I do. That's a big sign there. You don't like that one at all. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I liked it. I'm sorry. I was taking in something else. Had nothing to do with you with Green Vial, whatever that was. You can kind of still see the elements that they gave us in those terrible renderings, which again, don't use AI unless you just can't avoid it. I guess. They already have a sponsor for this stadium. They've already got a name on it. Like we haven't even kicked off. It's GE Vernova Park. I don't know who GE is. I don't know what Vernova is. I don't know what that is. What is that? Anybody?
I bet it's their AI initiative or something like that.
Oh no, maybe you're right. Maybe
but it's probably a good sign though for the team that they have a stadium sponsorship before the darn thing's even built.
Yeah, and I will say this again. Okay, actually, I have some information on this. GE Vernova is a purpose-built global energy company that includes power, wind, and electrification segments, and is supported by its accelerator business. That's what GE Vernova is. I think anyway, I'm looking at this. I do like the fact that it looks different, right? It looks not like any other stadium. We just showed you what Jacksonville Armada wanted to build there in Jacksonville, which is, fine. Again, if you're only aiming for a couple thousand seats, there's not a lot of different ways to do it. But look at this, which looks like a medical facility compared to this, which at least has some character, right? At least has something interesting about it.
Yeah, it's certainly. I mean, hey, we have a timer. We have a timer on a Wednesday again. Mark, got us over the goal. Thank you so much.
I believe we got past the goal thanks to Mark. Mark is doing the work. Mike wants us to pronounce something with his donation here, super chat. Can you guys pronounce the word Cuyahoga? It's a Native
I was going to say,
word.
I think we've had that on the show before, so it's a cheat code, Cuyahoga.
Isn't it Cuyahoga? Is he missing a letter in there, or is that just me? Isn't there a U? I think there's a U in there, right? Or am I wrong? I only know Cuyahoga.
The H is supposed to be a U.
I see.
The first H is a U.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Jenny knows how to spell Cuyahoga, which is that's why we keep her around, because she knows how to spell Cuyahoga. I think that, if you've seen the movie Major League, which was my exposure to Cleveland, I'd never been to Cleveland, never knew nothing about Cleveland, but I was 9 years old or whatever, and Major League came out, and I'm singing the Cuyahoga River, the song at the beginning of that movie, which I think is who does that? Randy Newman. It's a Randy Newman song.
Oh right, man. Anyway. Randy Newman, what an artist. Would Randy Newman thrive in today's music environment? I have my doubts.
Yeah, maybe. It'd be tough. It'd be tough for Randy. All right, that means we reached our goal. Do we have 3 more stories that we can now get into, Rob?
Yeah, we do. And we were talking about Cleveland there for a second. And the only time I've ever been to Cleveland is when Leo Messi arrived in Cleveland to play Columbus. And that brings us to our first bonus story that Vancouver and Major League Soccer are going to have to pay out after a class action lawsuit in the midst of Messi Mania in 2024. Messi was on promotional materials for the game between Inter Miami and Vancouver Whitecaps, and he did not play, and people were upset, and they are now having to pay those folks for Messi not showing up, false advertising and whatnot.
Yeah, I wonder how much. So I wonder if the case would have been decided this way if it was just focused on Messi. But the way it reads is that the lead plaintiff, Ho Chun, filed the claim alleging that the league and club exploited the expectation that Lionel Messi, Luis Suarez, Sergio Busquets, and Jordi Alba would play. However, before the game, Axel Schuster confirmed that none of those players would travel to Canada, as former head coach Tata Martino chose to rest them due to calendar congestions. I will also point out that Vancouver has the worst surface in Major League Soccer. Everybody hates that surface at BC Place. And if you've got a 37, 38-year-old superstar and Sergio Busquets and Jordi Alba and Luis Suarez, these guys are held together by duct tape at this point in their careers. You don't send them out and play on a really bad artificial surface. You don't do that. So I'm not blaming Tata Martino for his decision. But again, if there was some okey doke here, if it was a bait and switch, hey, the Stars are coming to Vancouver, and then you bought tickets on that expectation and they didn't show, I understand the argument behind the lawsuit brought by Ho Chun. However, I'm also one of these people who said, it's sports, man. There's no guarantee.
No guarantees whatsoever. I mean, I understand being a little upset. Not quite as bad as bait and switch as we saw over the break in India with the whole Messi showing up for 5 minutes or whatever, and the whole riot that ensued there. Not quite as dramatic as that. But yeah, I guess I also felt that way about the whole thing that going on in the NBA with the rest breaks for them is like, I mean, someone could break their leg or just get some sort of injury in the warm-ups, and you're up the creek and you don't get to see the player.
Yeah, I mean, I think you take a risk when you buy your ticket. You don't know.
For sure.
And obviously, if it gets on the schedule and you're doing it way out ahead of time, which I imagine was the case for an Inter-Miami visit to Vancouver, lots of things can happen in that intervening time. I mean, apparently the settlement also claims the Whitecaps must revise their ticketing terms, adding language to state the following information. Ticket holder hereby recognizes and acknowledges that team roster and player lineups are subject to change at any time prior to or during the event. Ticket holder further acknowledges that Whitecaps FC cannot and does not make any representation, warranty, and or guarantee arising from or related to the participation or performance of any individual player in the event, and Whitecaps FC that hereby disclaims any and all such representations, warranties, and guarantees, whether express or implied, including but not limited to, in any advertising or promotional materials related to the event. Why is that necessary? That shouldn't be necessary. Again, dude, you bought a ticket to a sporting event. There is never a guarantee. And it would be ridiculous if I guess there is a question here, Rob. And I've seen this with the NBA. It's certainly been an issue in Major League Soccer whenever a big name player signs in the league. Should you be selling tickets on the visit of a star player? If LeBron James is coming, if Michael Jordan is coming, are you supposed to be, hey, buy your tickets to come see the Washington Wizards because LeBron James and the Lakers are coming? Like, is that the way to sell your product? Or does that make you look bad and really, speaks to the problem of make your team better so you don't have to do it that way?
Well, yeah, I was going to say that is the mark of a bad team if fans aren't coming to your stadium because of your team. And if you have to sell the visitor, that kind of puts you already in a certain category. And yeah, you're playing with fire for this very reason, because if they don't show up, you get in trouble. And now, we're in a litigious society. So basically that amendment that you just read out, that's, it's because there's always a sign. It's like, oh, why does it say don't lean on the glass? It's like, oh, maybe something really bad happened when someone leaned on the glass. Just like this, they advertised that these players are going to be here. They weren't. So now they got to cover their backsides.
Yeah. Anyway, I say suck it up. I'm surprised that there's a loss. I mean, I guess for the Whitecaps and MLS, it's probably cheaper to just settle than to go through the whole rigmarole. But man, I don't like it. I don't like it. Suck it up. It's sports. Go support your own team. Don't go to BC Place to see Lionel Messi play. Go to watch your own team. No, I mean, I know. I get it. Everybody wants to see the GOAT. What else we got, Rob?
All right, bonus story number 2, Danny Rojas playing soccer professionally in the United States. He's been spotted.
Tryout with El Paso Locomotive is what I'm to understand. And I even saw some blurry pictures of him on a practice field. I guess during his trial, I don't get this, Rob, because it doesn't seem to me that this is sort of all about the fact that he's Danny Rojas from Ted Lasso. By the way, Christian Fernandez is his actual name. Let's give him his real name because he's
Fair.
not going to be playing as Danny Rojas. He'll be playing as
that would take any legitimacy away.
well, but
If there
that's
is any, yeah.
hold on, if there is any, right? That if there is any, that's the thing because Cristo Fernandez, I say Christian, it's Cristo Fernandez played as a youth player in the Chivas system when he was 15. And that's when he tore knee ligaments that ended his career or at least stopped his career so much that he wasn't going to continue trying to play soccer anymore. Now he's 35 years old. He's not 25. He's 35. At this point, we are drumming players out of the sport. Unless you're Lionel Messi, get out of here already. 35. You're old. You're terrible.
There's less miles in his legs, you know. I mean, it could be, you know, a renewal, a second life for him. But yeah, I mean, at least he has some football heritage in his history. But I saw rightly so some people pushing back, like, couldn't like a young player have done those minutes, you know, instead? Like, is this a publicity stunt or is he going to contribute?
Well, and that's the thing, like, it doesn't feel like a publicity stunt because they're not making a big deal out of it. Now, maybe they're just being careful so that the coach can have some plausible deniability about why he got signed. Like, oh, we didn't promote this. You just saw him randomly in some social media post. There he is clapping with the team. So this was a real legitimate tryout, real legitimate trial. And we signed him because he's good enough. And also, by the way, did you know he was Danny Rojas on Ted Lasso? Oh, also, by the way, come out and see Danny Rojas from Ted Lasso play for El Paso Locomotive this season in the USL Championship. Like, is that the thinking here? Because remember when Chad Ochocinco tried out for Sporting Kansas? They might have been the Wizards at that point. It's that long ago. Chad Ochocinco was never going to be a good soccer player. Like, everybody knew it was a joke. Even as quote unquote bad as MLS was back when Chad Ochocinco attempted to play professional soccer, everybody knew it was a joke and it was never going to happen. But they trumpeted it. They talked about it so much. Chad Ochocinco wants to be a professional soccer player. He's given up football for soccer. And they made a big deal out of it. He was all over the place for Kansas City's promotional materials. That's not really what's going on. As far as I can tell, it's not really what's going on here. So it's weird. It's so weird.
Yeah, another player or athlete that did that, Usain Bolt. I think he tried to go pro for a team in Australia as well, but unfortunately he didn't get signed there. And there is a clip going around. I don't know if it's in conjunction with this story, but Chad Ochocinco got on the field. He apparently was somewhat friendly with Jose Mourinho at Real Madrid, and he asked Jose to get in a training session with the reserves, and he said he was completely embarrassed. He got in one like kind of warm-up session before they really got going, and he said he couldn't even see the ball, let alone touch it.
Right? No, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's good. And that's not to say that he's not an incredible athlete. Clearly, Usain Bolt is not an incredible athlete, but if you don't spend your entire life training to be a professional, even the levels we think of as not the highest, say the A-League or Major League Soccer, are still going to be incredibly difficult. It was to the point of you might as well, what are you doing here? What are you even doing here? I mean, it is. And look, these guys are soccer fans, and I love that passion, and I do appreciate that part of it. I mean, man, I don't know. I kind of want to see it happen for the curiosity factor, but I would sympathize with any El Paso Locomotive fan who's like, wait, what are we doing? We're giving a roster spot to a 35-year-old actor? What?
Yeah, isn't there more Ted Lasso seasons set to come out? So
I think they're working on season 4 right now, or it's something like that. Yeah, I think he's coaching the women's team or something. I don't remember what's going on anymore. Ted Lasso, didn't he get on an airplane to go back to Kansas? I don't know what's happening.
No, I don't quite recall. I thought they wrapped it up, but they're bringing it back. You know, you can't let a hit go with any more juice to squeeze, right? And so I guess hopefully this isn't like a slow burn publicity stunt to promote Ted Lasso for coming out. But El Paso would be a strange place to do that if that was the case. If this was a promotional stunt, and maybe he's I don't know. It's strange to see what the motivations are other than Cristo Fernandez, unless he just has like a crazy strong burning desire
I think he
to be
probably
a pro?
does. No. I think Cristo Fernandez is coming at this from why wouldn't I try it? Like, I don't blame him at all. I don't blame Cristo Fernandez at all if his dream is to play professional soccer and he's been holding on to that for the last 20 years. Now, I'm seeing from Eric that Danny Rojas is not in the new season. So, I thought maybe this might be coinciding with the release of Ted Lasso season 4, and they're going to say, oh, look, we got an actual soccer player, an actual pro who was in the team. And I don't know. Anyway, we got one more story to get to. A real soccer player doing some things.
Yeah, a real soccer player doing real things despite the labor impasse, the possible strike that's coming. Players have been signing, and there's been some bigger names dropping into the USL rosters over the last week or so, including United States men's national team player Sebastian Lletget going to also an unlikely place within the USL sphere, Monterey Bay.
Yeah. Sebastian Lletget, a guy, as you said, U.S. international, last with FC Dallas. Is that where he was?
5 years there, 5 years.
Yeah, man, crazy. It was 5 years for Sebastian Lletget at FC Dallas. He's been around for a while. Like, I remember him when he was a youth player for the US U20s or whatever, playing in the U20 World Cup.
Old?
Yeah. He was one of these guys. He had like 3 different countries he could have played for, and he kind of like did a tour where he was kind of attached to all of them at one point before eventually deciding to play for the United States. I'm seeing 33 caps for the US. That's a pretty solid international career, man.
Yeah.
He's 33 years old. So he's had some injuries. I don't think he's been a great player the last couple of years in MLS. I don't know if there was maybe a potential to sign as a squad player somewhere else, and he just didn't like that idea. That's not what he wanted at 33. It does the report from Tom Bogert, and that's where we're getting this information. Actually, Joseph Lowry first, and I believe Tom Bogert after that. So credit where it's due. The Tom Bogert report says that Lletget's going to join Monterey Bay's ownership group as part of the deal, and that his partner Becky G, who is a pop star in multiple languages, is exploring a relationship with the club on both the men's and women's side. So I don't know what form that takes. That is fascinating. This is an era of celebrities getting involved in club ownership. Like, we've seen that in a number of places. Sometimes it feels like it's a substantial investment of cash, and sometimes it's basically like, you give us your image to attach to all of our stuff and you get a piece of the team.
A little validation.
Yeah, I would imagine that Sebastian Lletget isn't the kind of guy that's going to throw, $20 million at Monterey Bay in order to invest in that team. I don't know what they're valued at, right? So that's part of this too, is like, what is the actual capital investment necessary to be part of an ownership group in a place like Monterey Bay, California, for a USL team. So I don't know, but I guess it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. Like, it's going to be fascinating to see like what his level is as a player and whether he sort of dominates that level or if he's just another guy. I mean, you mentioned some names from MLS past, a guy who started in USL and then ended up in Major League Soccer, now is back in USL, is Mark Anthony Kaye, the Canadian international. He's with Sacramento now. So we are seeing that there's a little bit more movement between the divisions than I think there used to be, which is interesting.
Well, and that's good. I mean, that's one of the amongst the things we need here in American soccer is a working ecosystem where players can move up and down. A player that played in the USL shouldn't be completely ruled out or a line struck through his name because he came up through USL. So it's good to see there's a little bit more movement going back and forth there. And there's also been some bigger names signed. I think Lexington has signed a couple noteworthy players, and a couple others have been popping up. And that battle in Kentucky between Louisville and Lexington could be heating up here, as Louisville's been kind of the class of USL for many years, and Lexington trying to challenge that.
I mean, without sort of diving, like without being too sort of unfairly negative because of some very shallow appreciations of what's going on in places, Lexington's one of those clubs that kind of doesn't make a ton of sense to me. Like, I'm still trying to figure out what exactly is going on with Lexington, because is that a place, just on paper? And again, maybe this is old thinking. Maybe the dynamic has changed. Like maybe we need a new way of thinking about this. That's probably fair. But is Lexington, Kentucky a place where you go, yep, second division soccer team in America, like totally a place that 100% could support that, right? Well, there's what 500,000 people, I guess, in the metro in Lexington, which I guess maybe I didn't realize there was that many people. Is that the right place? Is it a matter of like, oh, there's somebody willing to put the investment in, and you kind of have to trust them to do the marketing and get the work done and build the structure so that they can be successful in the stands, right? And again, they built their own little soccer stadium there, Lexington SC Stadium in Lexington. Just that choice indicates a level of investment and interest that kind of has to come before everything else, even if you're like, well, maybe Lexington's not the obvious place for a second division soccer team.
Yeah, and I know one of our most ardent MK Ultras is a big Lexington fan. Be interesting to get his take on what you just said. But yeah, it's interesting to see that a team that doesn't necessarily 1 + 1 = 2 is dropping a lot of coin on the players on the field, and interesting to see if that approach pans out for them long term, and if they'll see some success with their investment on the field. I do want to give a big shout out to all of you guys, especially those who reached into their pocket and sent it our way. We got this extra bonus session of stories because we did hit over $100. We even got $113 today.
Wow, that's great. Rob, you're choking up. You're so touched by the support of our listeners and the ultras that you're choking up over there.
Emotions are having an apple bite in between segments, and it's coming
Oh
back
yeah,
to
Rob was like, my blood sugar is crashing. I need to eat something. So there's your explanation there. Yeah, thank you very much to everybody who chipped in to help us get to the bonus, because sometimes they're like, obviously we want it to be this way every show. Sometimes there are just too many shows to jam into the normal program, and we want to make sure that we're covering as much of American soccer as we can, but we want to give some time to those stories, and you guys help us out by making it worth the while to keep going.
Hey, and the generosity isn't stopping. Wes popping in here with another morning kick around membership. And I know there's folks like Jack and a couple others that are in here all the time, and for one reason or another haven't been able to make that commitment. Wes is throwing it out there for you to gobble up. So thank you to Wes, and thank you to all those who have contributed today. And then our first new member of the day saying that he was a viewer for many months and finally made the commitment. So thank you so much for doing so. Gunnar D he was our first member of the day. So thank you for making that commitment, taking the leap, and thank you for your viewership, and thank you everyone for tuning into the show. And then so we'll be back on Friday. Who knows what the USL labor situation will be when we come back on Friday?
Exactly. We might have an update on that. Well, we'll know because the season kicks off on Friday. We'll know if there's going to be a game that day, if the players are either still in negotiations, even as games get underway, or if there is going to be a strike, potentially. Fascinating times in American soccer.
And it's interesting that those bigger name players have signed those USL contracts with this, CBA stalemate still ongoing. Interesting to see that they seem to have the faith of operating under that pretense. And I'm curious, do you think this is kind of just off the top of my head, do you think there's a chance that they go ahead and play even without a CBA?
If they are still in negotiations, yeah, because again, as long as they're negotiating in good faith and nobody has walked away from the table and either executed the strike or done a lockout, then the provisions of the previous CBA still carry over and govern what happens. And we know, contracts were signed under the previous CBA. So until this thing gets done, that those things will just hold. So I think as long as the players do not hit the button after authorizing the strike, there will be a kickoff to the season. Now, I do think that if you're talking about leverage, and Rob, you've brought in minor league hockey as an example here of a potential example for the USLPA, right? Second division, not the top division of hockey in America, but they had a players union and they executed a strike. The USLPA has significant leverage 2 days before the season kicks off with USL making all the noise they are about stadiums, about expansion, about Pro Rel, about Division One. So if you want to go for big impact, now, as rightfully said in our Discord, that leaves a lot of fans out in the cold. They were planning to start the season. They were planning to go out and Sporting Jacks plays their first ever game on the weekend in the USL Championship. They're hosting Hartford Athletic, their first ever game. Imagine if that game got postponed because of a player strike, just as they were launching into this new era, planning a stadium, playing their first ever competitive match. I mean, that would be tough for fans, and I would certainly feel for them. Now, you obviously would have to ask the question whether or not it's worth it in the long run, right? Looking down the road.
Yeah, short-term anguish for long-term gains, because, in that minor league hockey situation, they struck and they got what they wanted. So, it went on for, I think, 20, 25 days or something like that, through a very busy period for hockey in December. They went on strike and they got what they asked for. So obviously those people were disappointed at the time, but they got what they wanted.
Yeah, and look, sounds disastrous, says John. If you're the players, do you risk just killing any goodwill you have by striking? Now, again, you may get a sense that the fans are on the players' side here, right? And I think they've been relatively successful with their media campaign, such as they can do in the smaller bubble of second division soccer in America. I think they've been relatively successful getting their word out, right? Connor Tobin's been around. He's quoted in a lot of places. He's on a lot of podcasts. We talked about their social media posts today on this show because it's effective. Now, obviously, we're a place that cares. Is this getting out to fan bases everywhere across the country if those fans aren't watching Morning Kick Around or tuning in to John Morrissey or doing whatever it takes to follow USL at a granular level? That's a big question for the USLPA, because if you strike, you might be killing, this might be killing the golden goose, because now the fans walk away from the league because they're disillusioned. And instead of, oh, we got something out of this, now you've hurt the league in such a dramatic way. There's really no way for USL to meet your demands.
And before we step out, we got an update. Mr. Billy Bob Western, who contributed generously. Thank you, Billy. And he's saying that Lexington got 8,000 in the stands against in the Louisville game last year. So some definitely, at the very least, that Kentucky rivalry is a match.
Again, this is what I'm saying. Like, I am a person who has been following American soccer for a very long time. And I guess I always have this sense of concern and a little bit of doubt baked into how I view all of these things. Right. And again, like if you've been normalized to it doesn't always work, then you're going to have doubts. And being skeptical and cynical has value in a way of interrogating these projects, these teams, these clubs, so that they aren't able to sort of just get away with the bare minimum and then ultimately they crash and burn because they were never structurally sound to begin with. And as we said, we put some burden on USL here after what happened in Georgia with Tormenta. How much is USL doing to vet these groups to make sure they can stand the test of time? Now, maybe you can't account for COVID undermining the business in Statesboro the way that it did. I think that's probably fair to say, but there has to be some sort of sense of, if a team starts in my town, I can trust it's going to be here. I can give them my time and attention and money, and I don't have to worry about it blowing up in my face in 3 or 4 years. And now I'm back to square one, or maybe I don't want anything to do with professional soccer in America.
All right. I think that should finally do it for Wednesday's edition of Morning Kick Around. It was a great one. We hit our goal. We heard multiple clangers on the day, so that's a good day. And we forgot about the world for at least a little bit.
One more thing, one more note, because somebody said it in the chat. Well, just because this is important. So Patrick is saying, if you do not have your YouTube profile set to accept gift memberships, when those are shared in the chat, when gift memberships are purchased by some of our ultras, they basically go out to the first person, I think, that grabs them. You might miss out. I think Jack's been waiting on a gift membership that Mr. Bob has been promising him. So I know there's a dynamic there. If you don't have it turned on, go turn it on right now. Jack, we will try to take care of you. As Mr. Bob says, email us at morningkickaround@gmail.com and we'll see what we can do. But there you go.
All right. We'll see where everything's at come Friday when we're back. But until then, everyone, stay warm, be brave, and enjoy your soccer.